All right, real question time. These are all Abbey Road related. Bet y'all think you're hot shit now that you record in Abbey Road Studios, huh?
Oh, I just blew snot out of my nose. I mean, I think something super noticeable right off the bat is how there's constantly 50 people trying to recreate the Beatles picture at the crosswalk.
Yes.
Or sorry, the zebra crossing.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, you need to see
Is
the
it because
signs?
it's like
Whoa, no.
stripes
Yeah,
on the road?
it's a
I mean,
zebra
yeah,
crossing.
I get it.
The studio is immaculate. Everybody here is actually the thing that I noticed. First and foremost was how accommodating everybody is here. Everybody's really nice, and will get you water. Like you don't even have to ask for it. They just kind of bring you stuff. It's really nice.
You know, I think the first thing I noticed when I walked through here is when you walk through the hallway, there's all these posters of like movies that they did scores for, worked on sound design or whatever. And you know, it's cool to see like the old vintage Star Wars posters, the new ones, there's a big like Lord of the Rings plaque. Like it's just super cool to kind of like walk through these hallways and be like, oh, Mr. Williams was here.
I didn't realize how old this place was. Like I knew obviously like its reputation for the Beatles and like things in that era, but apparently this is the first building built to be a studio specific. It is the first location to ever do that. And we got to walk into like an echo chamber that was basically used to create reverb. You would go in there to record things and it had a natural reverb on it. So yeah, basically plugins were made here, which is crazy.
Being in Abbey Road has been pretty cool just because I didn't realize that this was the first established musical studio ever made. It's an insane piece of history, and as a kind of gear geek and production geek myself, like this is where a lot of stuff originated, which is really phenomenal to be able to witness, and just being able to see the makings of so much greatness and see where it happened it's a really cool presence to be a part of.
I think it's incredibly surreal being in Abbey Road right now because Abbey Road has so much historical significance and holds so much weight. Like, my grandma is stoked that I'm here, and that is really cool because I can't always relate to what I'm doing.
You know, when you walk these same hallways, you know, that the Beatles were once in and, you know, John Williams and, you know, it's just kind of surreal to be in a spot where so much cool stuff that you love was like created.
What's special about being at Abbey Road right now is that I'm doing it with my band. You know, it is the most famous studio in the world, and we are truly a rock band that started in my parents' basement, and you know, not built by any label or anything. We were a band that started in my parents' basement, booked our own tours, slept in the van for years and years and years, and grinded our asses off to be able to do music as a career. We were too dumb to give up, and now we're doing a session at the most famous studio in the world.
If you could re-record one song from your discography here today at Abbey Road, what would it be?
Probably Fashion Forward. It could be the most glowed up, and also it is the closest to the sound that we landed on from that era. She's Quiet's obviously a great song, but Fashion Forward, I feel like a little bit more set the tone for what we were going to do in the future. And I think that we would be able to make it way cooler now. Like have 8-string, and my voice has just gotten better. So
Yeah, I think that's, I definitely agree with that too. It's the first one that comes to mind, because especially like with how cool the studio is and how good these rooms sound. Like another answer I would give is like, I want to re-record Sales really badly, only because I think I could do a better job of like performing it, slowing it down, like just making it a better overall song. But like at its core, it's just an acoustic guitar and a vocal. You don't need a beautiful studio like this. So I think Fashion Forward is definitely the song I would also pick.
How did your families react to the news that you're recording some songs at Abbey Road?
I have not told my family that I'm here. I wonder what they'll think.
My mom knows one music studio in the world, and it is Abbey Road, and she was very excited. My dad said, "Wow, Abbey Road, cool!" Exclamation point.
Oh, wow, exclamation point.
All right, yeah, you got some punctuation out of it.
From Ken, punctuation's a big deal.
Yeah, it sure is.
I told my family, and my mom said, wow, with a little kissy face emoji. And then my sister was just like, maybe you could warm up with a Beatles song, which oddly enough, I don't know how to play any Beatles songs. Just never really learned them.
I played one Beatles riff, and John let me know that I'd been playing it incorrectly since I was like 12. But I think that's one of the craziest parts about Abbey Road is that this is probably the only studio in the world that holds weight when you tell someone about this. My dad doesn't know anything about music. When I tell him, oh, I'm recording at Abbey Road, everyone knows. Like when we tell people we toured a band, we tell them like some of the larger bands we toured with, it only means something to like, you know, that niche audience of like the emo scene or the Warped Tour scene. People don't always know what Warped Tour is. Everybody knows what Abbey Road is, and that has been crazy.
I think I can speak for all of us when I say that upon entering the band, we were taking it seriously from day one. I think for me, realizing that it might actually be able to pay my bills and I might actually be able to do this full time, not have to have another lame job that I don't like, was probably when we were out on tour and I was looking at our merch line and all of a sudden I saw it wrap around, it was a pretty small venue, but it was wrapping around some tables and I thought, I don't think I've ever seen that before. That's crazy. I remember having a distinct moment, I think it was in Sacramento, funny enough, thinking, I think we're gonna do it, guys. I think we're gonna do it. I think we're gonna do it.
Yeah, I feel like I've known that every album I put out was going to make it since I was 15. And I was wrong every single time until Slow Bloom, pretty much. But I think when we released Slow Bloom and we saw that like initial spike, that was the first like, oh, they're like, it's kind of happening right now.
I had a similar moment when we did our headlining tour on Slow Bloom, when I saw faces of people I didn't know. Because normally when you play DIY shows, you kind of see the same people. And like, that's great. I love seeing them. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's like more than like 25 people I don't know here. That's weird.
That was the end of 2021, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Right when the album came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people have often said to get to the point that we are at and above, all of those people are the people who were too dumb to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I would say the reason that we put a lot more into every aspect of our band as opposed to just making music is because we enjoy it. It also helps us feel separated from other creatives and not part of a big pool of people doing the same thing. I'm not saying that like we have to be different or we can't, take influence from other things, but at the end of the day, I really want to see this band do new things. That's what makes me really happy, and obviously do them well. We will put more money into things like silly music videos, just because we want to be able to have that separation. And also we want people to be able to connect with our art in a way that's more than just listening to music. And I would hope that extra effort and money goes into that.
It's interesting too. I'm a little bit older than everyone else here, and I kind of grew up in an era with music videos, being like on TV, and I remember watching a lot of those with a lot of fondness growing up. And then obviously we kind of have moved away from that, but I always just remember really enjoying watching a song's music video of a band or artist song I just liked. Maybe they weren't always the coolest, but it was always cool when you saw a music video, kind of like would make you stop in your tracks, go, oh, whoa, that was really cool to see visually and how it lines up with the song and the music. And I think that always stuck with me, is like, I always like the visual element can be very important to people. Sometimes it's not important to people, but I think for us as a band, having the visual and the, audio also be important, really is like kind of something that really sticks with all of us.
And it's all an investment back into the band, because I'm sure there's many instances where we could have pulled more money out to pay ourselves, but spending more money on a music video to add to the world and like the universe of art that we're creating, I think ultimately serves us better in the long run than, you know, a couple extra $100 in our pockets right now.
You know, it's funny too. A fan actually came up to us in one of the shows that we just did with State Champs and was like, "I found your music through watching All Your Friends Get Rich music video where you dressed up as Pennywise the clown." And I was like, "That is such an insane statement. Like, that's how you found."
They
the
were a
band.
Pennywise fan.
They were a Pennywise fan. Found this and they're like, "What is this?"
And then was like, "Oh, this song rocks."
This song rocks. Came to the show, bought merch, and they're a fan. That's super cool.
As far as our music goes, we are fairly picky. It doesn't really do me much good if there's a hotshot who has no idea what we sound like, and it doesn't benefit our vision going forward. Whereas maybe a homie of ours absolutely does understand what we're going for and we make an incredible song together. So for me, I would always much rather just do whatever serves our music best. Sometimes that ends up being the more expensive thing. Sometimes it ends up being the less expensive thing. But as long as that intention is at the forefront of it, I'm happy.
I'm a firm believer that the only thing you can't foster in people is drive and the want to do the art that we're doing.
Yeah.
And I would rather work with people musically, like a producer or, you know, anyone in my band that wants it the same way that I do, because any other factor like, you know, fame or success or money, that's only going to motivate you for so long.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't want to do it when none of that stuff was around, you're not going to want to do it when all that stuff is around later and after all that wears off. So same thing with producers.
Yeah.
If you don't, well, we can cuss, right? If you don't fuck with what we're doing, I don't fuck with you.
I think also there's an element of that we're just very particular with our art, and we want to work with people that not only understand the vision but are excited to work with it. But then also on the flip side of it, you know, you don't need a big name to do a good job on something. You know, at one point, the home team, you know, were quote unquote nobodies. You know, but that didn't stop any of us from trying to create the best art that we could. And why would that stop me from working with someone who, you know, quote unquote doesn't have a name when they're just great and understand what we're doing, you know?
I think the important part is that they share the vision, because we are incredibly fortunate that the four of us are very aligned on our vision. And because we are so sure of ourselves, we know when to put our trust in someone, because we're like, oh, if you can get on with the four of us, like, you get it, and that is easily the most important part.
Was there any specific intentions in making this album besides let's make 12 more songs?
Our intention with the Crucible of Life was to grow, because both as a band, like fandom-wise, but also as musicians, because we got the opportunity to experience things that we'd never experienced before prior. Because Slow Bloom was made in the vacuum of COVID, where we had endless time to do whatever we wanted. And while it did push our boundaries there, and we did learn a lot, the opportunities afforded to us on this next album, The Crucible of Life, were just a little more grand and things that we would have never got to do otherwise. And it taught us a lot. It put us through the ringer, but we came out the other side knowing and being way more sure of what our vision is for the future of the band. And for that, I'm extremely grateful for the process of this album and to the album itself. I thought that the intention was to grow just as a band, but it turns out we ended up growing as musicians quite a bit.
Damn, that was deep.
Yeah. Try and top it, bitch.
That's basically, it's everything I needed to say.
One huge thing that I learned while recording The Crucible was how much faith we need to have in our own vision and our own taste, because I feel like we tried to do a number of things the way we were told to do it, and the way, you know, not to say it's us against the industry, but like, you know, the way the music industry typically does things. Mm-hmm. And we found that, you know, we thought, oh, if everyone else does it this way, that's probably the best way to do it. But that didn't yield really anything good. So when we ultimately went back to doing things our way and trusting our gut, we ended up with a product that we were really happy with. So it taught me that we need to really focus, like, if we think it's, like, we need to live and die by our taste. If we think it's sick, I would rather do what we think is good and have everyone else hate it than try to do what we think other people are gonna like.
Yeah.
You know, it's an interesting thing you say about, you know, having other people hate it. I think I'm more of a believer of that, like, maybe it's not for the typical audience, but there is an audience out there that will appreciate what you do. Yeah. Obviously, if you do something vastly different, it might alienate your current audience, but that doesn't mean that there's not a new audience out there that will love what you're doing.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I do think one of the biggest strong suits that we have as a band is not even necessarily our musicianship or anything like that, but it's really just our taste. I think we have decent taste as a band, and that has gotten us pretty far, and I'm pretty excited about that. And I didn't really know that until after The Crucible of Life. So, as an album, The Crucible of Life has definitely put us in front of a lot of new people. I'm very grateful for that, especially Loud being the big single from it. I am happy that that single is the one that did well, because we were a little worried about it. It's a bit of a curveball. It's very, very pop forward, and but also somehow heavy forward because of the chugs. And I guess I'm not surprised that Loud in particular is the one that resonated the most with people, but it's definitely, it's a weird song. It's a weird song, and I'm happy that that weird of a song is what did it, because it gives me a lot of faith moving forward for what we can do as a band and what boundaries we can push.
I was going to say, what has The Crucible of Life done for us? I mean, this is the third time in the UK in 14 months. So we've been traveling all over this place, you know. So
Things are doing all right.
Yeah, so it's just very interesting. You know, it's taken us to a lot of new places, and so exciting that it continues to, you know, and that's what's super cool about it.
And we're all full-time band now.
Yeah.
The Crucible did that.
As of The Crucible of Life, we are all now full-time band.
Why did you name the album The Crucible of Life? I suppose I'm asking for the meaning, but I'm curious what the thought process was behind that name representing these songs.
The day John cursed to the heavens.
You go for it.
Why did we name our record The Crucible of Life? Let me tell you. Have you ever lived? That's the crucible. that's the crucible of life. You know, life can be difficult at times, but the thing about it is that life being the crucible, you harden, and you either crack under it or you
Become harder.
That's it.
One day, I was with John, and something had happened to put him in a damper mood. But he had said, "I'm tired of being hardened in the crucible of life." And I said, "Holy fucking shit, what did you just say?"
Write that down.
Write that down. I did not realize that it was setting the stage for what was going to happen throughout the process of that album for us. And the fact that we absolutely became tougher as a result of making that album. And it just felt perfect. And I had an idea to have that as the album title at the beginning, mostly just because it sounded cool. But then when we actually made the album, I was like, that has to be the title of the album. And no doubt.
Yeah, and I think a thing that I kind of, you know, when I think about album titles for new music that we're working on, I try to do like a poll of how's everyone feeling at the moment? What are we feeling right now as a band, as a person? What do we feel like is going on? And for us, it really did feel like, yeah, we were really we were burnt in that thing. So
it was a combination of not just the album, but also just the amount of touring that we started.
Touring, and then you have to write a record while you're touring a ton, and that's just like it's a really big ask.
It kind of just threw us for a loop, and maybe this album is really just our funny way of complaining about it. But at the end of the day, I'm very happy for that period of our lives, not just the process of making the album, but that whole time of like really quick growth, because it was hard. But at the end of the day, we are
much better for it. Much better.
Do you remember what it was that happened that made you come up with that?
Brother, somebody probably stole a parking spot. I don't know. Something happened to me.
The top scoop of ice cream fell off his cone onto the ground.
The top of 3?
That's why I said it's just life, man. Just some shit just happens, and it's just.
That's funny.
The role music videos, you know, play for the home team. I mean, it's massive. You know, I think I had kind of said earlier that I kind of grew up in an era where music videos were still very important to music and artists. So I discovered a lot of awesome music through watching music videos, and I want to keep that, you know, that art form going. You know, maybe it doesn't make the most financial sense, but it fulfills, you know, the band. We love doing it. It's so fun to do. Sometimes it can be very stressful, the amount of time, and sometimes you look at the bottom line at the numbers and you're like, oh man, this is even gonna recoup. But it does, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like the money doesn't matter about that. For us, what matters is like really just having another way to express ourselves artistically. And music videos definitely enable us to do that. And, like I said, we discover fans from music, come up to us and tell us they found us through YouTube. And honestly, that's a great feeling. It's a great, it means kind of the hard work you put in then, like really pays off.
The cover for The Crucible of Life was made by an artist, a tattoo artist out of Bristol named Miriam Black, who absolutely knocked it out of the park. She did such an amazing job. And one of the greatest things about her is how excited she was to do it and be a part of it. We did hit up some other artists for it, but she was our first pick, and I'm really happy she said yes because she was our first pick. And it's really funny because I had this kind of grandiose idea for what the album art was going to be, and I gave it to her, and without really saying much, she said, okay, I think I see where you're going with this. And what she sent back was very different, and I was so happy it was because it was so much better.
Yeah.
She clearly has an eye for this stuff, and I'm like, I'm a musician. I have ideas. Here's the general gist. And I was surprised, but I was like, yeah, I'm really happy you didn't actually do what I originally said because that would have probably been way worse.
It just turned out way better.
It just turned out so good. The framing that she used and the way that I'm pretty positive she did the entire thing in pen.
Yeah.
And then scanned it, which is insane.
Yeah, and I think, again, it kind of boils back down to, like, when you find someone who's excited about wanting to work with you, yes, like, we love what you do, and you seemingly love what we're about, and we just want to keep working with you on the capacity that we can.
Metaphorically, the cup obviously is a little more of like a chalice, but we, in lieu of an actual crucible, but an actual crucible looks boring as hell, so... I literally, in my original idea, I just like, the iron pot thing, the long iron pot, too, and that would have looked boring as well.
Yeah, so she really did a great job.
But one thing I do want to note, on the album cover, there is a much smaller one floating above it, and that is to be representative of the fact that in the DIY days, for us, we really thought that once people gave a shit about our music, everything was going to get easier. And oh my God, was I wrong. All of us felt that way. And that was to represent the crucible that we thought was the crucible of life, only to jump out of it and fly into a much bigger crucible.
And you know what? There's a bigger one under it.
There's a bigger one under it.
And you think it's gonna get easier, and then it's just new and different challenges.
It's just new and different challenges.
That stuff you didn't even think of would even be a problem when that's like, oh man, we gotta think about it.
I would like to think that one day it will get easier, but
new challenges.
We'll see. When we signed to Thriller, we really did not know what we were even missing as far as our previous experiences with labels, because we got way more resources this time around and people who just knew what they were talking about. And I was so excited to run ideas by people and get expertise in things like this, because when we signed, it was a matter of, let's try new things for the sake of writing this album. Let's see what we can make using a different process than what we used for Slow Bloom. There were positives and there were negatives. But for the most part, what I really enjoyed was that throughout the entire process, they just listened. Thriller just listened to us. They respected what we had to say about things. We weren't just some random new nobody band that they were just like, no, you're going to do what we say. Because there are plenty of major labels that will just say, like, if there's a song that we're cutting and we don't really vibe with it and they like it, they'll say, no, that's coming out. That's the first single. Like, that's just how it goes. And that wasn't really the case with Thriller. We got to be able to have conversations with them and talk about what we thought was best. And there was push and pull. There were things that we said that we were like, I don't know if that's the best idea. And they said, we should do that. And, oftentimes they were right. And oftentimes we were right. So it's been a nice, cohesive environment to live in with them.
I also think just the belief that Thriller has, and also the honesty, because like when we were talking to a bunch of labels, some labels would be like, you're gonna be a star, you're gonna be huge. Other labels are like, yeah, come over if you want. But Thriller was one that's like, I believe in this, and I can't make any guarantees.
But we'll try.
But we will do everything in our power to get you to where you can be, because we see it.
Right.
And that was huge.
I think that the best music the home team will ever write is still to come. I think when we get the chance to do pretty much everything start to finish the way we want, we will write the best music that we've ever written.
I think I agree with you.
Yeah, and I think there's always, I feel like for me, one of the biggest limiting factors in all of our records is time.
Yep.
You just run out of time. There's stuff that I've been wanting, to do since Slow Bloom era that I have yet to really do in a capacity that I like. So it's always one of those things that I think our best is yet to come because we have so many ideas of things that we want to do.
The empowerment that the Crucible of Life gave us has definitely helped us want to write the next record. Prior to the Crucible of Life, it was, we don't really know what we're getting into yet. Now we know what we're getting into. Now we know what we want to do. Now we know generally how to move forward. Obviously, there's going to be some push and pull and figuring out what the next steps are. But for the most part, being more sure of that makes me more motivated to want to get started.
It's kind of similar to almost like in boxing. Like round one, maybe you don't really know your opponent that well. Gets a couple good licks and you're like, okay, now I know kind of what's going on here. Yeah. Now round two, now I can dial in and really lock in here.
Worthy is a song that was part of the process towards the end of our writing cycle in the Crucible. And it was the only missing song that we did with Tyler and Skylar Accord. And those songs are some of our favorites on the album, and the biggest single, Loud, came from those sessions. Worthy was one that when I originally heard it, I didn't really know what to do with. And I ended up writing the vocals to it about a year later, which is, we're coming up on a year ago soon. And because I didn't really know what to do with it yet, I didn't really bother writing to it. When we knew that we wanted to do a deluxe version, and just because I knew that I heard that demo and I was like, this is a good song. This should be made into a song. I tried again, and I got something that I was way, way more excited about. And as we kept developing that song, it just went in a direction that I think is still indicative of the Crucible of Life and belongs on that album, but is also a little more representative of where we want to go. I love that song. I'm super, super happy with that song. And I don't think I thought I was going to like that song as much as I do now when we originally wrote it. It snuck up on us, and I knew that because of that, it needed to be released as a single.
It's very funny when I think about those sessions with Sky and Ty, how much I was so out of gas because it was literally the last writing sessions we were doing.
Of that trip, yeah.
And they really pushed me into places I had never really been musically. Mm-hmm. And I think because of that, it was so unfamiliar. I was like, I don't really know. But, when Brian first heard, Loud, and he had something right away and then showed us, it was literally like, oh, I'm so glad I'm able to trust everybody in this band because, again, I wanted to delete everything from those sessions. So having them and then say, no, let me do it, and then literally turn into something that I, maybe even initially, I don't want to say hated, but didn't enjoy, to now something that I love and is so unique and so cool and honestly, is defining, for our music. It's so cool to be able to have that trust, in everybody else here.
That's a really interesting way to view it because I feel like when you start playing an instrument, especially one like guitar, where you are dictating what the song is going to sound like it's all from your brain to start. Feels like you're supposed to be inspired to create what is inevitably going to be the final product, but really you're trying to create something that inspires the rest of us to put together the whole thing. So even if you don't love it right at the start, Loud, you wanted to toss.
And even Worthy too. Worthy was, I thought Worthy was the best, aside from Somebody Else's Face. Yep. Worthy was the next one up. I was like, oh, that's a really cool instrumental. We can do something with.
And I always agreed. I just didn't know what to do with it back then. I was also a little gassed.
Oh,
that's the other thing.
Were. Yeah, totally.
Loud was a curveball when we were writing it, and I wasn't in the room when we were writing it because I was tracking the demo vocals for Bragg with Zach. And I didn't hear it until later, and I heard it kind of just in passing when I went over to where you guys were at Sky and Ty's place. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool, whatever. And the guys didn't seem really stoked, and I was like, no, okay. It was really just a verse, a pre-chorus, and a chorus. I then, later on a tour that we were on, a couple months after that, I was going through a folder of demos, and I was driving a Cruise America that we were sleeping in. And it was nighttime. I was like, yeah, I'll go through the demos. I was looking for something to listen to. And that one came up, and I was like, damn, this is kind of crazy. Like that first verse could probably get rewritten, but the rest of it is awesome. And especially the chorus. I was like, I feel like I know exactly what I want to do here. And I wrote the entire chorus on that drive. When I was writing it, I don't typically write in a very like tagline fashion. You know what I mean? Having a tag at choruses, it's for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, don't be afraid to get loud being the tag of that is like, it's oftentimes the last phrase of a chorus. It's what kind of wraps it up. It's the thing that people remember. And that's not usually at the forefront of my mind when I'm writing lyrics. And when I did it, I was like, whoa, this is like a tag. Like people will be able to sing this. I was just like, this is out of the box. This is out of our box of things that we usually do. And I didn't know how to feel about it right at the beginning, but then as we recorded it and we brought it to Zach Jones, and he helped us with the verse and he helped us put it all together, we all agreed once we had it, we were like, this thing is crazy. This is a weird one.
You know, it's another thing I just kind of put together here. Loud was one song I wanted to throw away instrumentally, and then the other one was Turn You Off, which, is funny enough, are both songs that Brian absolutely was like, you're out of your fucking mind.
Oh, yeah,
This
yeah.
shit is so sick.
John wanted to throw Turn You Off away too, and I was like, what are you talking
I
about?
think what I'm discovering is if I want to throw it away, I think that means it's a really good song for Brian at the minimum. So I got to really lean into that part of my gut.
I think there's been some demos that we both agreed you should throw away.
But I think that also goes to show that like the group is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yep. I agree with you on that for sure.
And I think Loud is probably the song that embodies it.
I listen to mostly contemporary R&B. I don't even listen to that much rock anymore. I grew up on rock music and alternative music and being in the Warped Tour scene, but after a while, I kind of got tired of it, if I'm going to be completely honest. There are plenty of great bands still out there doing amazing, new, cool things. But as a general, like, everyday listening, I don't really listen to rock music. And Loud, the thing that it satisfies for me is that really the only thing that makes it a rock song is drum tone, the heavy guitars in the chorus. My voice kinda, like in the chorus, I get a little, high and aggressive or whatever, but at the end of the day, it feels like its own new thing and the most distilled version of our influences as a band that we could have made at the time. I want to top it. I'm saying it now. I want to get even more dialed in, and I want to go like pull from those influences without being gimmicky. Like I'm not trying to do rock covers of R&B songs. It's like super not what I'm going for. But that has yet to, we have yet to get there.
I think the thing I like the most personally about Loud is that it has great pop sensibility while still being an interesting song that still can blend in with the alternative music scene. Like it's got these 8-string chunky guitars, it's kind of groovy, but at the same time, it doesn't seem out of place with like the pop punk kids or the post-hardcore kids. Like it still vibes, and I think that is a very hard thing to accomplish, and the fact that I think we did is huge.
You don't always know when you have gold. Like we kind of thought we thought it was trash for a little bit, and it turned out to be, our biggest song.
Because it was some of the last stuff written, I was being pushed into places I wouldn't normally go. And I think because of that, it created such a weird and unique chord structure for me. I mean, obviously for like people who know theory and all that stuff, like it's probably very easy for them to get there, but I wasn't trained classically or anything like that. So for me to get there was quite a different road. So I think what I love most about Loud, obviously Brian did a killer job on the vocals, but the creation of the actual chord voicings was such a weird and unique, different way than, of creation than I've done before.
So when we were picking the first single for The Crucible, we were very much debating between Brag and Loud. because Loud was like, this could be the pop like explosion song for us, but Bragg sounds so much like like evolved Slow Bloom, and that is clearly like a home team song, whereas Loud is kind of out of the box. How did we end up?
Dude, we flip-flopped a million times.
Yeah, it was always going back and forth.
We were also talking to Bob, and
I was gonna say, I feel like Bob was kind of the guy that was like, do Loud.
but then he was like, do Bragg.
But he
no, wait, do Loud.
I think eventually it was like kind of a thing, and then he ended up with do Loud, and we're like, okay.
Yeah, because the conversation was, Bragg is safe.
Yep.
People who like Slow Bloom are gonna hear Bragg, and they're gonna like it. Where Loud very well could alienate some people because it's so different, but it also does show a very clear progression. And so I think we ended up choosing Loud first because it's like, okay, even if you lose some people with the first single, once Bragg is out, it'll show that all those things you still love are still in this band. Yep. And we ended up going with that. I'm glad we did.
Yeah, same.
I'm glad we did too, and primarily because I think most bands who are connected with their music probably think their new shit is more different from their old shit than it actually is. I think a lot of times, and I think I'm totally guilty of that, thinking like, oh, this is a weird one, and then you put them together and you're like, no, I can see how this happened. And I think a lot of times when you bring in other parties, like people who have been listening to your music for a long time, and they hear it, they're like, yeah, I mean, this is kind of different, but it's still you. You know what I mean? Like, it's still very much us. And it's not like we completely reinvented how we're doing music. Even Slow Bloom and Better Off, like, yes, there is a pretty drastic shift in genre on that, and we see those as two different bands. I think a lot of people definitely still see the connection between those, and that's why I'm glad that we picked Loud, because I think personally, I do think it's the better of the two songs. And obviously it was our most successful song, so I'm happy with it.
I feel like Move or Lose It is very special to our career because it was one of the first songs that we had written for Slow Bloom. And I remember being so focused, like, I know what I want this to like. I know what influences I want to use to create this song. And I remember, this is so dorky, but I made it even like a little Word doc to try to explain to producers or people we work with, like, this is how I came to this conclusion. Like, yeah. And funny, some people understood it, some people didn't, but that was just the thing that just like, for me, started the, I guess what we'd call like our band's sound.
I absolutely think Move or Lose It is responsible for the beginning of our current sound. It's not the oldest song on Slow Bloom. There are older ones, but those ones weren't nearly as indicative of where we were going with it. And Move or Lose It really was a combination of John and I's taste. Historically, fun fact, John and I clashed creatively, and when we finally found something that we both really liked and really agreed on, it made something much better than what we had made in the past.
The reason why we picked Move or Lose It to do at this session is, we have actually kind of worked on this one prior acoustically before. We did a performance for Space Zebra?
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
And four chord.
Yeah, and four chord. Yeah, we'd do like kind of acoustic songs, and so we had put a little bit more thought into like how would we make this different, translating it from full band electric to like an acoustic, softer song, and I think it just kind of made it an obvious choice of not only what it represents for like us kind of figuring out what our sound was going to be for the future, but also we had more time to really kind of sit and marinate and think like how could we make this just like cool and different.
We already knew it was a good acoustic song. Yeah. I would say writing Meoli was obviously great because it opened the gates to all sorts of things, but recording it, we brought in Sky Accord, and that was the first time we had worked with him as a producer. And writing wise, we had the album pretty much 90% done by the time he got there, but he helped shape us in a way that we're really grateful for, because that set us up really well for the future and really for the rest of the album, for the rest of Slow Bloom. And so recording it was honestly just fun. Yeah. It was just fun. It was exciting.
Yeah, and I think one of my fondest memories about recording Move or Lose It is the guitar clean tone is so good. Mostly thanks to this guitar right there. It's an incredible guitar. It truly is one of the best sounding clean guitar tones I've ever been able to. And it just, I remember when we first did, played it through, the amp. I think we used a Fender Bandmaster, I think. Just
So good.
I loved the tone so much, and it still crushes to this day. So, shout out Aristides.
First memory that comes to mind when thinking about recording Walk This World With Me.
The first memory and also earliest memory I have regarding Walk This World With Me is when I came up with the hook, because it was a long time ago. And I think I was listening to some like lo-fi chill hop playlist, and a song came on that really inspired me, and I just kept kind of like singing along like some random tunes. Like sometimes I do, I'll sometimes like whistle random tunes just for fun. And I came up with that, and then I repeated the song, and I kind of just wrote it to this song. And I had that hook in my back pocket for probably about 2 years before we ended up, I said, hey, I've had this hook, definitely a ballad, don't really know what to do with it instrumentally, let's build around it. And that's exactly what we did. And we did with Zach Jones, who really helped that process, knew what to do with it going forward.
Which, it's so funny when I think about that song. It's a beautiful song, and I'm so glad that, you know, you're as fond of ballads as you are, because I'm not much of a ballad guy, never really have been. And the distinct memory I have is you pitched your idea, I have this line I want to do. I said, okay, so I just gave you a couple of chords. I said, I'm going to lunch.
and Zach and I said, we got it, man. We got it from
the
here.
chords are, and the thing is, the chords are beautiful. It sounds great.
Yeah, you wrote them.
I wrote the chords. They sounded great. And then I said, I have no idea what to do from here, so I'm going to go get Wingstop. This is great.
Yeah. The reason I'm so excited about that song is because we had a ballad on Slow Bloom called Another Night Alone With You that was one of my favorite songs in the time of writing it. And upon listening to it again years later, I kind of feel like what I was going for wasn't completely captured in that song. And I wanted to redo. And I felt like this hook was good enough that I was like, okay, I'm gonna try again. What I'm going for is a ballad that has a sense of grandeur. It feels full. It's not electric guitar. It's not, and I really feel like it is just the leveled up version. And I'm so happy with the way it turned out. There's so many different instruments involved in it. We got real strings recorded for it. There's real piano on it. There's acoustic guitar in the verse. There's a bunch of different production. And it's just this really like fleshed out piece that I'm so excited about. And it took a while to make it because of that. But I'm so happy with the way it turned out, because the hook is really simple when you think about it. But there's just sonically so much going on that I'm really happy with.
And I think it's just a beautiful song.
Thanks.
It's just really, really pleasant to listen to.
Appreciate it.
Like I said, I'm not a ballad guy, but I know enough to say it's a really pretty beautiful song.
Specifically, when I came up with the hook, it was the first half of the chorus that I wrote. It was through snow and sleet. It sure gets so hard to see. And I don't know why I thought of snow, but I did.
Or the word sleet.
Hey. John, that's John's favorite word.
When's the last time you heard sleet in a sentence? I'll tell you right now, when he said it in the song. That's it.
John learned a new word when I sent that song over.
What's the weather like today? Oh, it's sleeting.
And that's what I'm saying. So when I first heard it, I thought he said through snow and sleep. And I was like, I don't really know what that means, but it sounds nice. So cool.
You sing it real pretty. I don't care what he's saying. I feel like when I think of writing Brag, I think of a very particular moment in the writing process of The Crucible. This was our first time writing with like real label backing and a lot of outside help and opinions and resources that we're very thankful to have. But the first portion of writing did not go as we had thought it would go, and I think we felt very creatively stifled. And then we got in the studio with Zach Jones to do Brag. It felt like the floodgates had opened. Like all of the creativity that we'd been shoving up in us kind of flowed out, and that song just kind of like came together very naturally with all four of us in a room. And it was one of the first times that we were like, The Crucible's gonna be something.
Yeah, I mean, the song basically came out instrumentally in a day.
Yeah,
Just literally the first day we worked with Zach, instrumental was done by the end of the day. So that's, and it's very cool and special when you have a song that you work on together that comes out in a day. Not a lot of our songs really do that. The only one I can think of is Watching All Your Friends Get Rich. But
Yeah.
no, we usually take a little bit more time, but sometimes you get lucky and something the muse speaks.
It was very re-inspiring because I know we all felt pretty dejected after our first like sessions that we did, and so to come in like, all right, is this how it's gonna be forever? And then we sit down and we bust out a song all the way through, and it's like, that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yep. What I love so much about Brag and why it was almost the first single off of The Crucible of Life is the bass line was so grooving, so slamming. And I remember just being like, it's one of those bass lines where you know, when you key into it, it really just kind of makes you bob your head. And I felt like if something can make you, I think it's actually a Timbaland quote I picked up on. It's like, if it makes you move, like bob your head, then like you have something there that you should explore and work into. So I've kind of used that guide a lot in my musical career and hasn't failed me yet. So shout out Timbaland.
Yeah, I also think that Brag is very much a refined version of all the things that we loved on Slow Bloom. I mean, it's got clean guitar that sounds great. It's got the 8-string in the choruses to make it super heavy. It's got the funky bits. Like, it just did everything that I think embodies the home team in one song.
Brag is like kind of one of the, I feel like one of the quintessential home team sounds where it's high energy, translates really well live, very easy to sing along to. So it kind of feels, you know, to compare it to a song of Slow Bloom, like The Right Through Me, where it's like high energy, big, like very exciting, and you know, funky bass line, memorable chorus and taglines. Just feels like a home team song.
I think I love Brag because it embodies all parts of what the home team sets out to do. It's got like the R&B influence in the vocals. It's got some slap bass, like funky stuff. It's got 8-string guitars. It's got, you know, staccato, stabby, clean guitar, 4-on-the-floor drums, and I feel like those are just all of the staples that make the home team. And I genuinely feel like if I had to show one person a song that is like, what song best represents the home team as a whole, it would be Brag.
Performing Brag is, I think, more fun than listening to it for me. I like that song. I do think it's a great song. It, for me, lyrically steps out of a comfort zone just because I love writing songs about doubting myself. And that is a facetious take on narcissism. And it just sometimes feels it's a little embarrassing, if I'm gonna be completely honest. But when it's performed, it actually is a little more empowering than it is embarrassing. And playing it live is a ton of fun. We've been opening our set with it for the last few tours. And it's jumpy, it's aggressive, it's groovy, and I'm super happy with the way the song turned out. And being able to project those, I guess, you know, arrogant tendencies that I put off in the lyrics is way more fun on a stage than it is sitting at home in my AirPods.
Wow, what I love most about Brag, you know, I talked about how much I love the bass, but I also love just the hook of the guitar. Like, I think that part is so sick. But if I had to really put it down to one thing, I think the bass has such cool groove. The slap parts, the pop parts, like, it just makes you want to bob your head. I love that shit.
You want this answer as Daniel the business guy or Daniel the band member?
Let's go business guy.
One of the things that I love the most about Brag is when I heard that tagline, "I'm so sorry, I've been naughty," I knew the second I heard that, like, oh, that is TikTok gold. And Brian always says, like, as soon as he wrote it, he's like, I knew Daniel was gonna love this. I'm like, that right there, when I heard that line, I'm like, this is going to do so well on the internet. I'm so happy. I also just love that the song is like, it is kind of, if you have to take the home team sound and bottle it up, like that's one of the 3 or 4 songs I would show. If I had to pick one, like that's one of the ones I would show everyone. Like, this describes what we do perfectly in a song.
Sometimes I think the gravity of what the band and the home team has done is kind of lost on me. And I have to kind of remove myself from it for a bit to realize that I am in the same position that bands that I grew up seeing were in. I remember going up to people that I looked up to in bands and saying things that now kids are saying to me at shows, and that is huge. And sometimes that happens and it kind of rocks my world a little bit. And I'm like, wow, I'm actively living the dream. Like I am where my heroes were. And sometimes I think I need to take more time to realize that and really not take for granted everything going on with the band and all of the things we get to experience, from touring Australia to being here at Abbey Road. It's just incredible.
Every artist has a peak and then starts to decline. How steep that decline is varies from artist to artist. I hope that we're at the very bottom of the growth phase and that we keep going up and up and up, and the inevitable decline is very long and very slow, and we keep going up as much as possible. But I do try and like zoom out as often as possible and appreciate the fact that I'm currently in what I'll probably view as like the best times of being in the band. Hopefully there's many, many more years of good things to come, but I do fully recognize that like we are doing what very few people get to do right now.
When I think about the future of our band, I do want to hold on to the fact that what we're experiencing right now is something that a lot of people never get to experience in their life. And that is just growth in your passion and being able to succeed in it to the extent that you can make a living off of your art and be fulfilled. I do recognize that there will come a time when things are just going to get a little more boring and things are going to slow down and things aren't going to be as magical as they used to be, and it might feel like a little more like work. And don't get me wrong, it's hard work now, but I try my damnedest to take a step back every once in a while and recognize that we are kind of living in the epicenter for us in our life of the thing that we love to do. That said, I have so many goals that I'm just kind of doomed to look at the future forever, and that's fine. I'm cool with that. I know that it'll slow down one day. And I'm very grateful for the problems that we have had thus far. And I'm very grateful for this journey. Sometimes I can't wait for it to slow down, but I do know that there will come a day where I'm like, man, making those albums was pretty cool.
My favorite thing about being in the home team. That's a tough question to answer because honestly, there's so much. Everybody in my band enables me to help create just stuff that's in my head, and just having people that support you on that level, I mean, this might sound harsh, but not even my parents, do that. So to have other people, believe in what you're creating and want to see you create it, and want to be a part of that, I mean, that's truly a special and unique thing that not everyone gets lucky. Not even sometimes your parents don't even give it to you.
It is difficult to be vulnerable with yourself and your art, and really artists, when they're making art, they put everything out there and everything is on display. Like, people's opinions of your art is what impacts your career. And so I'm very thankful to have a safe environment amongst my band members that also feels encouraging, and it just fosters it fosters me to be the best musician I can be.
I could not imagine doing what we're doing with anyone else. I've filled in for other bands. I've played in a dozen other bands before the home team. But there is truly no one else in the world I would rather be doing this with than the other three guys.
I would say my favorite part about being the home team, besides the fact that I have creative control and agency over our art, is the fact that I am in a band with my friends. Because I have seen what it's like to be coworkers with one another on this journey, and nothing more than that. And for me, obviously the art is the reason I'm doing this, but it'd be a real bummer to have a lot of the same problems that I would have at a day job and be following my dreams, and as a result making less money than I would be working some tech job in Seattle. And the fact that I'm able to be friends with the people who I work closest with is, I do not take it for granted, because I genuinely think, and I'm starting to realize that it's actually kind of rare. I always thought that bands were these units of people that, were together till the end, and I started to realize that the majority of successful bands work together. That's fine. That's totally fine. It is not a necessity that you have to be friends with your bandmates. But the fact that I'm such close friends with my bandmates is, I do not take it for granted.
I think my favorite fruit is mango. Mango, yeah.